In this video, I'll be building a fully functional website from scratch using Figma. Whether you're a complete beginner, someone who has used Figma before, or you already have some web design experience, this video should be very easy to follow along. There's a remix link to the Figma file in the description. I recommend reading along with me step by step. It's the best way to actually learn. However, if you get stuck or you want to double check how something was built or structured, feel free to remix the file in the description and explore it at your own pace. Quick heads up though, if the link isn't clickable, you might need to copy and paste it manually into your browser. My name is Umechino and I've been designing websites for about 2 years now. I make contents like this to help beginners and creatives build beautiful, functional websites without writing a single line of code. Alright, let's not waste time, let's build this thing from scratch. When you first log into Figma, you should find yourself in a dashboard that looks like this. It's going to be empty if you don't have any projects yet. Now the next thing you want to do is create a new project. Click on this blue button on the top right. You should find yourself in this minimal interface over here. Now if you've used Figma before, then this should not seem unfamiliar to you because it has a similar layout, a left and a right panel, and on top you can see some tools, and under here this floating dock has just some quick tools like the move tool, the drag, comment, you can change the mode over here as well. Right, so before we proceed, I want to talk about two building blocks in Figma. So the knowledge of this is going to help you understand how to lay things out in Figma and make responsive sites. So these are frames and stack, right? Frames and stack. So to draw a frame, click on this layout over here, then select frame. Now draw like this, right? Now this is a frame. Now to create the stack, let's duplicate because I want to show the differences side by side. So I'm going to just Control D to duplicate this. Right now, these are two different frames. Now to convert a frame into a stack, select the frame. Now on the right property panel over here, this is where you can change some certain things about this particular selected element frame over here. So you can change size, layout, but I'll focus on just turning this into a stack for now. So to turn this frame into a stack, just click on this layout over here. Just select it. And just like that, you have turned this frame into a stack. Now this is a stack, this is a stack, this is a frame. Now, these are both containers, but they work differently. So basically, think about frame as an empty room where you can place anything you want, right? And then think about stack like a smart container that, when you put anything there, it automatically arranges it for you depending on your settings. So let's quickly demonstrate that. I would select layouts, frames, and I'll draw just smaller frames, maybe like about 3 of them, like this. And let's change the color of this to something more visible. So while these are selected, in the right property panel, you should see the styles panel over here. Then under that, the fill property is white. So we don't want it to be white. We want to change it to something different. Maybe something like green like this. Now, if I copy this and I paste it inside here, I can drag this anywhere I want to drag it, right? If I copy this again and I paste it here, you see I can put these two different frames anywhere I want to put them, and they're going to stay where I put them. Now, unlike frames, stack doesn't work like this. So if I select these 3 frames and I copy them and I Control D and paste them inside here, as you can see, they have automatically arranged themselves horizontally. Now if I try to drag and place a particular frame in a particular place, it doesn't work because right now the position of these frames are set to relative, right? So there's a lot to know about stacks basically, but I'll talk about the major things that we need to know for this video. Maybe in the later video I can now go deep into positioning, sizing and all. But just know that stacks lets you arrange elements either horizontally or vertically, right? And then if you can use grids, you can now arrange them by columns and rows. So right now it is stacked horizontally. So while this is selected, come back to this right property panel. As you can see in this layout section over here, the type is a stack, not a grid, is a stack. And then the direction is horizontal. We can change this to vertical. So as you can see, the items are now stacked vertically, right? And now distribute. Right now we center. So if I select start, as you can see, it's touching the edge, the top of the stack frame. this parent stack over here. And if I select end, obviously it's going to touch the end. But let's leave it as center for now. And then for alignment, right now it's in the center. So if I make it aligned left, obviously it's going to touch the left part of the frame. I make it aligned right. Now it's going to touch the right part of the stack rather. So yeah, wrap, you might want to ignore this for now. And then gap. So gap is basically, let's change this back to center. Gap is basically the space between these, frames inside of the stack, right? So right now it's set to 10 pixels, but let's increase that to something bigger, like 41 pixels. So as you can see, the space between these frames are now larger. They are now larger. Now padding is basically the space around the edges of this parent stack, right? So let me show you what I'm talking about. So right now, while the stack is selected and I align left, for instance, so as you can see, these children elements, these children frames over here, they are touching the edge of the stack, the parent frame stack. But if we don't want that, we can add padding to the edge. So now let's put maybe 41 pixels padding. As you can see, it is still stacked, it is still aligned left. But right now, there's a padding here to keep things clean, right? Now this padding, I applied it to all the corners. But the reason why you're not able to see that it is applied to all these corners because the sizing of this parent stack is set to width fixed, height fixed. So what this means is no matter how many children elements I add inside of this parent stack, the size of the stack is not going to change because it's set to fixed. Right, let me demonstrate that. So let's see, I duplicate this multiple times. So it is duplicating, but the size of the stack is staying the same because of this sizing properties here, fixed. But in an event where I select the parent stack and instead of fixed height, let us unlock this for now. Instead of fixed height, we'll change it to fit content. That's fit the available content inside the frame, inside the stack. So as you can see now, it has fit all the children frames inside. So if I duplicate again, the height of the stack is going to adapt itself to fit the contents inside. And if I delete, the same thing is going to happen. It's going to adapt to fit the content inside of it. So same goes for width, right? It's set to fixed right now, but if I change it to fit content, now it is fitting the content. So now as you can see, that 41 pixels padding that I added here, as you can see, 41 top, 41 left, 41 right, and 41 bottom. Also, you can also change the padding if you want. Let's say you want 41 on the top and bottom, but you don't want anything on the left and right. It's simple. Just select this dotted icons here, and then you can change it. Right now top is 41, so let's leave right as 0 and then bottom as 41 and then left as 0 as well. So as you can see, the pattern just applied to top and bottom, right? Now another thing I want to talk about is, let's change this back to 41 so that everything looks good. And let's delete this one as well so that we're working on a clean canvas. Another thing I want to talk about is responsiveness, right? So now the items inside the stack, the children items, children frames, they are not responsive. Because if I select this frame, for instance, and I come over here, as you can see, the width is fixed, the height is also fixed, right? So now what this means is, if I increase the size of this parent frame, this child element is not going to change. So let's delete this other three so I can demonstrate better. Now, to increase the size, of course, we have to change the width from instead of fit to fixed, so we can actually increase the size, right? Now, as you can see, as I'm increasing the size of this parent frame, nothing is happening to the content inside. It's just there, right? So one thing I want to do is, if I want this, child frame to move or to resize itself as I, resize the parent frame, one thing I can do is to select it and on the right panel under size, so instead of having the width as fixed, again, let's unlock this aspect ratio for now. We don't really need it. Instead of having the width as fixed, we can change that to fill. So what this means is it is filling the available space inside the parent container, which is this stack over here. So this is the space that is here. So now if you set this thing to fill, what it's going to do is it's going to fill up that space, right? Perfect. Now, if I resize this, no matter how I resize it, this child frame is going to resize accordingly to fit or to fill all the available space inside the parent element, which is the stack. Yeah, obviously this padding you're seeing here is because of this white space you're seeing is because of the padding that we have here. Exactly. So that's just a brief intro about frames and stack. Now that you understand how frames and stack work, we need to talk about breakpoints. So yeah, breakpoints is very important to understand what breakpoints are, because this is what is going to make your website look good across all devices. That's desktop, tablet, and mobile. So quickly, I'll show you how to set up breakpoints for your framer design. So right now we're on the desktop breakpoint, which is supposed to be the largest breakpoint, right? So if you want to create the smaller breakpoint for tablets, click on this plus icon over here and select tablet. Now you have the breakpoints for tablet, as you can see here. And if you want for mobile, click on the plus and then select phone. Now you have 3 responsive breakpoints. Now, whatever you do here in the main primary breakpoint, which is the desktop breakpoint, it's going to affect or it's going to show up here in the tablet breakpoint and in the phone breakpoint, right? So that when people are viewing on desktop and they switch to tablet, they can still see something that is responsive. And when they switch to mobile, they can still see something that is responsive as well. Now, for breakpoints to be responsive, we need to turn them into stacks, right? So remember what I said about stacks, how it's going to arrange your content, right? So think of, the different sections, like the hero section, the about section. Think of them as those boxes. And then think of the, desktop breakpoint as the stack that is arranging them, or vertically, right? So before we proceed, let's turn this into a stack. Select the breakpoint like this and come to the right property panel and click on layout. So right now you have made this a stack. Don't worry, anything you do here is going to affect here. So you don't have to come here and make this a stack or come here and make this a stack. No. By making this desktop breakpoint a stack, you've turned the tablet and the mobile into a stack. Now that you've done that, there's something I want to add as well, which is what they call the main container. That is the stack, again, that is going to hold all the different sections that you have, right? So I'm just going to draw that in. Select layout, select frame, and draw like this, right? So this is let's reduce the size a little. Now, so this is, let's call this the main container. Let's just name it main container. All right, so yeah, let's give this a different color so that we can see what it is like inside the desktop variant, right? So we're going to drag this inside here like this. So as you can see, it's already aligning itself properly. But right now, the desktop, breakpoint, the height is set to fixed. So we want it to be fit so that whatever you put inside of it is going to adapt to the content, right? So we'll change it to fit. Leave the width as fixed for now. It's supposed to be fixed rather, because it's a breakpoint, right? So the width is supposed to be fixed, but then the height is supposed to be fit content. Now that you've done that, as you can see, the breakpoint has adjusted the height to fit the content inside of it. Another thing you want to do is select that main container, as you can see selected over here. And you have to make that a layout as well. That's a stack. So you click on layout to turn that into a stack. So as you can see, this is a stack. And you want it to be stacked, vertically like this, because the sections are going to go from up to down, right? Not left to right. So now that this is selected, you want this thing now, you want the main container to fill the available width inside of the breakpoints, right? So you'd select it because as you can see, there's this white space on the left and right. You don't want that. You want this container to fill the whole width. So while this is selected, you come to the right panel again and then select and change to fill container. Beautiful. Now it has filled container. So the next move we have to make now is just to add different sections and then add the design inside of it, right? The height of this main container, the height is meant to be feet. But right now, you're not able to see, that fit property because there is no content inside of it, if that makes sense. So the way you can apply the fit height, properties when you add some sections inside or add an element inside, the main container. When you do that, you can now apply fit content. But for now, let's leave it like this. Now, moving on, we have to check out the reference site. That is what we're going to be building inside of Figma. So this is what it looks like. I found this design in Figma community. So I love how simple it is. I'm just going to replicate the whole of this inside of Figma. I mean, apart from the nav, because it's going to take a lot of time to build a nav. So if you want the tutorial for that, I'm going to make it in a separate video. But for now, I'm just going to focus on the different section, like the hero section. That's this one over here. And then the work section, the section that houses all the projects. The first thing we want to work on is the hero section. So we can see that over here, there's a side-by-side, layout, content on the left, image on the right. So we're going to create this layout right now in Figma. So back to Figma, one thing we want to do is we want to grab the text tool on the top of the page. So let's just type in something. So just make this white, come to the left panel, select color, and then make it white like this. So this is the text. So we want to go back here and copy this text, Control C, and we want to paste it here. Let me zoom in a bit so we can see exactly what's going on. Right, so this is the text. I want to make this bigger right now. If you select the text and you go to the right property panel, under the text panel over here, you should see size of text. So instead of 16, you can increase this to maybe, let's do 60, right? We can still increase this later, but I'm just trying to eyeball it. Let's change the font to something similar to this. I think this is Bebas Sky or Bebas new font. It could be anything you want. So I'll tell you how to change the fonts in a bit. So while this is selected, under this same text panel over here, see this font property here, you can just select it and choose from a plethora of fonts over here. I'm trying to replicate, the Figma design as much as I can. So I'm just going to use the exact fonts that, the designer has used. So as you can see, this is the font. We're getting somewhere. The next thing under that is this description over here. Let's just copy that. Now, one thing we'll have to do is select the text again. And then come here and then just paste, right? Okay, so this is the description, but we want this to be smaller, of course. So we'll select it, come to the right property panel under the text panel. So we change this from Bebas New to, let me see the font that this person has used here. So he has used the Manroop. So I'll just change this to Manroop. Search for Manroop. Okay, it's here. Awesome. Now we reduce the size to let's do 18. Right, beautiful. Now if you notice something, this header and this text, they are wrapped together. So this is where stacks come in. So we'll select the header, that's the name, and then select the description. So you can just highlight the both of them like this. So you can select them from the layers panel and then right click and click on add stack, right? So by default, it's going to align the content to the center. But while this is selected, come back here under the layout panel. you change the alignment to, left like this. Beautiful. And then if you notice something under this position and size panel over here, the width is currently set to fixed. We can leave that for now. But then the height is set to fixed as well. So what this means is if I reduce the size of this text, let's reduce it from 60 to 38. As you can see, the height of this, stack is not reducing. But we don't want that. We want it to be responsive so that when we increase the height of this text, the stack that is wrapping the text and the description would increase as well. So we want to make the stack, the height of the stack fits content like this. Let's change this back to 60. Select the header like this, and on the property panel, change this to 60 like this. See, so we're getting somewhere right now. Now, if we go back to the design, you see that the next thing is this button and then these links, right? So let's quickly do that. To create the button, we'll grab the text again and select, let's write contact like this. Now we want to change the size of this to something smaller, maybe 16, or let's do 18. Nice. So now that we've done that, as you can see, there is an icon in front of the text. Then there is this line underneath it. So we're going to add that. So now while we have created the text, we need to go to the insert, menu here, and then scroll down to icons, and then under icons, use material icon. I like to use material, but you can use any one you like here. I like to use material or phosphor, but for this tutorial, I'm going to use material. So we're going to drag material inside the canvas like this. So while that is selected, we want to come here and change the color to white like this. And now above that, you see icon. Now you can change the icon here. So if you go back to the design, you see that they use this arrow facing up. We're going to look for that arrow. So as you can see, this is it over here. Now we select that and the icon has changed. Click outside, and now that is, what it looks like. Now you want to wrap these two inside a stack. So a stack is very important. That was why I had to make that intro, talking about stacks and frames, right? So we'll select these two like this and right click, add stack. So now we want the height of the stack and the width of the stack to be fit content. The reason for this is so that if we change let me show you an example. As is like this, if you select the stack and you look on the right property panel, you will see that the width and the height is set to fixed. We don't want that. We want it to be fit. Reason for that is if I make this maybe contact, let's add me. As you can see, it is clipping. You can't see any C anymore. You can't see the arrow completely. We don't want that. So one thing we can do is select the stack, wrapping the contact me and the arrow, and then change the width from fixed to its content. So as you can see, it's fitting content now. We also want to change the height from fixed to fit content so that when we increase the arrow or when we increase the size of the text, it does not clip, right? It's beautiful. Now we are getting close to what the button looks like over here. So one thing we can do is select this and change the color to let me see the color that he has used over here. So is this neon green color that he has used? So I would use the same color. So you can select the whole stack and come to the right property panel and scroll down. So you can see all the colors used in this stack. This is it here. So we can select this and just paste that hex code. And that's how we have, copied the color. So now we can name this stack button so that we keep things organized. And then we want to call this stack that is wrapping this header and then this text. We want to call it text wrapper so that we keep things clean, of course. It's not necessary that you do it, but it's highly recommended. All right, so now we're getting somewhere. Normal thing I would do if I was designing this website would be to make this button a component. But I don't want to complicate things. In fact, let me just make it a component, right? But then before that, there's one more thing we need to do. There's this line under the button. So we're going to add the line while the button is selected, while the stack holding the content is selected. Come to the right property panel under styles. You see this border property over here. Select it like this. Now what you want to do is, if you look very well, the border is just under, right? It's just under. It's not on the left or the right or the top. It's just under. So we want to use this option over here so we can select the particular border we want to add. So now, as you can see, top, right, bottom, and left have 1 pixels, right? But we don't want for top, so we'll make this 0. We don't want for right, so we'll make it 0. We want for bottom, so we'll leave it at 1. And then we don't want for left, so we'll make that 0. So now we'll have to change this color to this green. So I've already copied that. I'll just paste that over here. So as you can see, it's looking somewhat like what we have here. Another thing we can do is to reduce the size of this text, because I think it's looking bigger than what we have there. And if you look at this design, you see that the space between the text and the line is visible and prominent, but here it looks tight. So one thing we can do is to add padding. Remember padding? So we'll select the button and then we'll add padding. So under the layout panel, you see padding over here. Obviously, we don't want to add to the left and the right, of course, because we just need top and bottom padding, right? Or only bottom, because as you can see, it's really at the bottom that we want to add that space. So we can add it on only the bottom. So to do that, instead of adding the padding here, which is going to add on all sides, select this other option here. Now you can add on any side you want to add, just the way we did for the border. So now select the bottom that we want to add the padding and just add. Let me add 6 pixels. So now we have it looking a little better. Let's select the text and make it a little bolder. Under the text, width, under width property, select and then make this let's do semi-bold. Awesome. So we are getting somewhere now. We are almost done with the left side of this design. So one more thing we need to look at is this links, these social media links over here. So we're going to create that. One thing we can do is go back to the insert panel, then under icons again, drag a material icon, right? So one thing you can do is change the color of this, select the color, and paste that same color hex code that I pasted. Still have it copied. So while this is selected, change the icon to LinkedIn. So I don't think there's LinkedIn icon. There is no LinkedIn icon here. So one thing we can do is to delete this, go back to the insert panel under icons, then use phosphor. Phosphor should have LinkedIn icon. So while this is selected, again, you want to change the color to the green. Select it again and under icon, just search for LinkedIn. Now see, this is LinkedIn over here. Click on it and now you have LinkedIn logo, right? So obviously it's not the same thing, but I mean it can serve. Now if you look at this design, you'd see this circular container holding the icon. So we want to add that. Again, we're going to use a stack. Very necessary, very important. So right click, add stack. Now we want to add a padding to this stack so that it is holding the icon nicely. So when we come back to the left panel, the right panel, right under layout, we can just add padding. Now we want the padding on all the sides, right? So we'll just do something like 12. Now the reason why the size of this have not changed is because the width and the height of this, particular stack is set to fixed. We want to change that to fit and change that to fit as well. So as you can see, everything is starting to look good. Now we're going to add a color. While that is selected, come to the styles panel and add a fill color. So as you can see over here, they use this sort of, white background. So we can replicate that. While this is white, just reduce the opacity of that. Reduce the opacity of the whites rather, like this. Now we have gotten something similar, although this one is round, so we're going to make this round as well. So while the stack is selected, come to the right panel and there's this radius under the styles. You see this radius property. So we want the radius just means the curvature of the edges, right? So we'll just make this maybe like 1000. So as you can see, it has turned round. Another thing we want to do is just make it a little smaller. So while this icon is selected, under the size, you can make it 20 pixels width and 20 pixels height, just like that. And then we have that here. Now there's another icon here, GitHub. So instead of dragging, phosphor again, we can easily just select this and Control D to duplicate. Bring this closer here and then select the icon inside of it and then come back to the right panel, scroll down. Sorry, the icon is not selected. So select the icon, make sure it's selected, then scroll down here and click on the icon. So you just change that to GitHub. Yeah, I think this is it. Beautiful. So now we have the exact same layout. Okay, that we're not done making this responsive. We need to wrap all of this in a clean container and make sure everything is responsive, right? So I'll show you what I mean by responsive. So now this button has been made. You can turn this into a component, meaning that you can reuse it in your site, and maybe when you want to maybe change the color of the button to pink, you don't have to go and change them one by one. When you've used them in other sections, you can just change the main component, right? So let me quickly do that before we progress. So while the button is selected, right click, and over here you see create component. Just create component. Call it whatever you want to call it, but button is already fine. And then create. And that's how you create the components. It's that simple. Although more can go into this, like, hover interaction, pressed interaction, variants. You can design different variants of this button. But I don't want to go deep into components, so I'll just leave it like this. So now that this component is created, I can go back to the home. So if you see, look up here, you can see this nice breadcrumb design. So from home, we went to the button component, but we want to go back to home, so we'll select home. So now we're back here. Now this is a component. This is how you can tell. While it's selected, you can see this cute icon in the front of it. So that's how you tell that this is a component, right? Beautiful. So now we want to wrap these buttons inside of its own stack. Now, one thing I want to do is wrap these two icons separately and then wrap the button and then the wrapped icons together. So I'll just show you what I mean. So select these two social media buttons, and while those are selected, right click and add stack. We want to make it fit. Always remember to change, the size, width, fit content, height, fit content. Beautiful. Now we want to, let's leave this gap. I think the gap is good as is. So it's currently 10. So we'll leave it like that. Now we want to wrap this button and this wrapped, stack here together. So we'll just select the two of them like this, right click and add stack. Again, width, fit content, height, fit content. Now we want to change the gap. We don't want it to still be 10 pixels because we might as well just remove this in a stack. Remove this from the stack. So while this is selected, come back to the right panel, scroll down under gap. Let's make this 20. We just want to give it, more space. Like we want these two to have, a tinier space than the 3, if that makes sense. So now we can make this fit. Okay, it's already fit content and the height is fit content. So we can call this buttons, right? Beautiful. Now we are done with the left side. One thing that's just left is to make all of these wrapped in a stack. So you see why stacks are important now. So we're going to just select all of these like this, everything, right click and add stack. Now it's currently, aligned center. So while this is selected, let's change the width. Let's leave the width because we're still going to place this in another stack. So we can leave the width for now. We can only change the, width of the content inside the frame. I'll explain better though while we progress. So we want the height to be fit. So rule of thumb, the height should always be fit content. There are instances, there are scenarios where you would want to use a fill height, but most of the time what you just need is a fit height. Then you can be creative with with your width. It could be fill content, it could be fill container, it could be relative. But right now we'll focus on just fixed and fill and fit. Right. So now this stack holding everything now is currently aligned center. So we want that to be aligned left. Because as you can see, everything is aligned to the left part of this design. So we'll come back here. Now we want to make this responsive. What do I mean? If I select this stack, let's name this left content. Always remember to use your layers. Always remember to use layers because there are times because the way I'm selecting this like this now, the way I'm able to select this whole content, you won't be able to do that inside. If you've already dragged this, I'll show you. If you've dragged this inside the breakpoints, you won't be able to select that way because you'll be dragging other things as well. So this is where your layers panel come in clutch because now you can select exactly what you want to select. Exactly. So now responsiveness. While this left content is selected, if I drag to reduce the size, see that nothing is happening, it is clipping. So if this is on the mobile now, this is what it's going to look like. And this is not what we want, right? So now one thing we can do is select everything inside of this left content and change the width from fit content to fill container. Remember the example I showed you in the beginning. So you select this text, come back here. See under the sizing panel, you see this width change to fill, right? And then select the description, do the same thing, width change to fill. Now that I've done that, select this text wrapper. That's the wrapper that is holding this header and the description. Change from fixed to fill. Just make sure it's filling the overall parent, stack. Now, look at the difference that would make. If I change the size of this now, as you can see, it is pushing everything down. And the reason why it is pushing everything down is because I've set the height of most of these things to fit, or all of them to fit content. So as you are reducing, as the height of this is increasing, the stack that is holding it is be adjusting its size to fit the content, right? So that's it. So I've successfully completed the left content. Now, the right content is just a simple image, so that wouldn't take time. So one thing we can do is to, again, come back to the layout over here, select it, and under here you'd see image, select, and you just want to drag like this. Simple. So automatically you get this, modal here. You can just choose the image you want to upload. Let's use something. Let me use my image over here. Now let me use this. Awesome. So now I've used this image. Now as you can see, the edges are very sharp. We don't want that because this guy has this, rounded corners. So remember radius, right? So we'll select the image, come back to the right panel under the styles. You'd see this radius property here. So you might want to add maybe 20. You can play around with this to see, what works for you. Now that we have this side by side, just like we have here. Now we want to wrap these two elements inside the container, inside the stack, basically. So we would highlight the two of them. Again, remember, you can't select like this when it's inside the breakpoints, because when you're doing that, you'll be selecting and dragging other things that I don't want to drag. So that's why I like to design outside the canvas. So I have this creative freedom and I can be able to design faster. So now we select these two, right click and add a stack. Beautiful. Now, one thing I want you to understand is, as long as it is the main stack, because over here you can see that this stack right now is the main parent stack that is housing every other child stack, you're just going to leave it as fixed until you put it inside another stack. Then you would now make it fill for responsiveness. Don't worry, I would still throw more light on this if it doesn't make sense now. So while the stack is selected like this, you want to select the left content. So if you can't select it precisely from here, you can just come to the layout. That's why I say you should name your layers. So you see left content, select it. We want to make this fill container. Remember, it was fixed before, but because it's inside the stack now, we have to make it fill container so that it's responsive. So we'll select it, come back here, select and make fill container. Beautiful. Now see the way you pushed this content. Now we want this image to also have, a responsive sizing as well, so that while we are increasing and reducing, the size is also increasing and reducing. It just depends on what you want, basically. But for this tutorial, I'm going to make the image responsive. So I'll select the image. I would make the width fill. So as you can see, the height did not change. The reason that the height did not change is because the aspect ratio is not locked, right? What's the aspect ratio? So what that means basically is, if you want to resize maybe an element or an image like this, and you don't have this locked, if you're resizing the width, it's only the width that is resizing. Let me show you an example. So like this now, if I just drag to resize, it's only the width, like the width of this, the height is not changing, right? But if you lock the aspect ratio like this and you increase, as you can see, everything is scaling well, right? So that's what we want to do. What we want to do for this image over here. So select this. Let's increase the height a little, and then make this locked. Beautiful. Now you might be asking, but the image is clip. Remember what I said about height and width. So select the stack holding everything. So if you come over here, you see that the height is set to fixed. We don't want that to be set to fixed. We want it to be set to fit content. Beautiful. So remember, most of the times you want the height to be set to fit content. Majority of the time, just make sure you have that set to fit. So you avoid clipping. When images don't show completely or when it is cutting out. Yeah, set the height to fit content. Exactly. So now we have this clean layout. So you see that we are almost there. So this is a little bit bigger. This is a little bit bigger. So let's just make the changes here accordingly. Select this text. I want to make this maybe 90. And then this description. The line height is a little, the text is a little together. So if you look at it closely, it's not really spaced out. So we want to change the line height of that. So we'll come back to the text panel over here. And then the line is currently 1.2 EM. So we'll just increase that to 1.4 or 1.6 to make it more spaced out. Beautiful. Now, let me show you how responsive this is now. While this stack is selected, if I increase this or reduce it, so as you can see, everything is resizing and reducing very properly and is responsive. So we're going to leave that. Now we want to put this inside the section. So this is just a container. What you have here is just a container that is holding this left and right content. Yes, before we do that, let's add a little space here. Select gap. Let's make that about 40. Just so it looks nice. Now we want to add this container. Let's call it container. We want to add it inside the section, like the main section now. So another thing I like to do is just to draw, click on this, select the frame, draw the section like this. So this is just the section that is going to have the whole padding and everything. So I'll just show you what I mean. So we'll call this is the hero section, of course. So we'll call this hero section like that. Obviously we'll make this a stack. Select, and then under here click on this to turn this into a stack. So as you can see, it's a stack now. Let's make this aligned, vertically, distribute vertically rather. It doesn't really matter, sure, because this container is already on its own. There is no other thing you're going to add outside of it. So whether it's horizontal or vertical, it doesn't really matter like that. So right now, let's remove the color of this stack so we can see what we're doing better. Awesome. Now we want to drag this container inside the hero section. I believe you can see where we are heading. Beautiful. So now this is the hero section now. Right? We want to change the position and the size of this. Remember, for responsiveness, always make sure the height is fit. Beautiful. And now the width, can leave the width as is. And then make the inside. Remember, the width of this container was not set to fixed. But because now we have dragged it inside another parent's container, we need to change the width of this, container over here to fill. This is just how to make your site responsive, right? Beautiful. Now, select the hero section. We want to add padding, right? Padding is the space on all the sides. So imagine if this is a website now. Let's put a color on this. Let's make it black. This is a website. It doesn't make sense that there's no space on the side. So if you look at here, you can see that there's a space on the top, left, bottom, and left and here. It is on the section itself that you're going to add this padding, right? So select the hero section, come to layout, and under padding, let's just do you can add individual padding if you want to do maybe 100 on top, on the right 40, on the bottom 100 again, and on the left 40. Nice. As you can see, this is already taking a lot of shape. Now that we have done this hero section, let's reduce the size of this and see how responsive it is. So as you can see, it's being responsive. So one thing we want to do is drag this hero section inside this design. Beautiful. So if you look at the layers panel, this is the desktop breakpoint. That's this whole thing. Now this is the main container. This red stuff is the main container that is going to wrap all these sections. And under that, you can see the hero section, which is this. Obviously, we want this to be stacked from the top. So we'll change the alignment. So while the main container is selected, because the hero section is in the main container, select it like this, and then under the distribute panel, change to start. Awesome. Now remember what I said. Now I've dragged this hero section inside the main container. The main container is now the parent, so we'll make the hero section fill container, right? Beautiful. Now you see that this has taken a lot of shape. So obviously it looks responsive already right off the back, but we want different layouts for the different breakpoints. So this is what it looks like on desktop. It looks perfect. Now on tablet, if you still want a side by side, that's still cool. But I'll suggest maybe reducing the size of the text to something, maybe like 60, and then reducing the size of the description to maybe 16 or maybe 14, right? Now it looks good. But for mobile, we want to create, a top-down content. So instead of, horizontal, we want it to be vertical on mobile. So we'll select the container. Remember, use the layers panel to be precise with your selections. Select the container that is wrapping the left content and the image, and then come back to the layouts panel. So distribution, instead of horizontal, change this to vertical, just like this. See that everything now looks good. I want to reduce the size of this text to maybe something like 60 is fine. And of course, reduce the description to maybe 16. So you just have to play with this and see what works. And now the padding. Obviously, this is a smaller device, so we need a smaller padding too. Select that hero section that we added the padding to. And now we want 20 on the left, on the right, and 20 on the left. We can reduce the top and bottom if you want, but I like it as is. So as you can see, the hero section is done. There are just a few more things that I would like to, touch up here. So as you can see, the space between this text and then the links, the buttons are, it's much here. So we might want to add that. Select the left content. So remember that I wrapped these two together, right? So this is the text wrapper, and then these are the buttons wrapped separately. So while the left content is selected, we want to change the gap to something like 40. And now it's looking spaced out. Another thing I want to do is to reduce the line height. So if you look at this, the name, this text over here has this small line height over here. So we want to select this and reduce the line height. Come to the text panel over here, and then when you see line, you can just reduce that. I think 0.9 is good. And now it looks tighter, it looks cleaner, it looks more refined. Now on to the next section. Let's not waste time. We have this featured project section. First thing I want to work on is this card. You can work on this heading later. So we'll work on this, and then we'll work on this. So again, it's more like a left and right content. So one thing we can do again, we can just duplicate. We can duplicate this and then repurpose it for this section. But I want to do everything from scratch so you understand how I'm doing it. So now we want a layout that is like this, left image, right content. So let's quickly do that. So I'll be a little bit faster with this section because I've talked about the major things in the hero section. So one thing we want to do is to drag an image, select image, then drag like this. Beautiful. Now, if you look at this, there's this, this is wrapped inside another frame. And then there's this stuff over here. So we're going to create that right now. So while this image is selected, we want to add this in the stack, right? So by default, it sets the stack. This is already the stack. It's set to fit, fixed and fixed. So change that to fit content, fit content. And now while that is selected, come down to layout and then change the gap, not gap, rather the padding to something like 40. 40. Beautiful. Now we're going to add a few color to the stack. White, let's reduce the opacity from that to maybe like 10. Okay, looks good. See, we're getting somewhere. For this, the height, the padding on the top and the padding on the bottom is bigger than the padding on the left and right. So we'll add that. While this is selected, come over here to padding, then select this button over here. On the top, you might want to use 100, and on the bottom, 100. Nice. So we'll make this fixed and then increase. Now, the reason why this is not increasing with it is because the height of this and the width is set to fixed. So what you want to do is select the image, come here, leave the height alone because of this locked icon. So if you want this to scale well and be responsive, make this few. Nice. So we're getting somewhere. If I reduce this, if I increase this, it's responsive. So we're almost done with the right content, left content. Now what's left is this text over here, conceptual work. Let's just copy that. Go back to Framer, select the text tool, click, and then it's conceptual work. So we're going to add this in a stack because if you look at this, there's this black, container wrapping the text. So we're going to add this in a stack. Select the stack. Again, by default, The width and height is set to fixed. So we want to change both of them to fit, then to fit content. So while the stack is selected, scroll down to the layout panel and then under padding, add like maybe 20 pixels on all sides. Beautiful. Now you see that it's taking shape already. Now we want to add this black color because this is black. So we'll just select this stack, scroll down to styles, under the fill property, select and then make this black. Another thing we want to do is we want to make the corners rounded, because if you look at this, these are rounded. So select the stack again, then scroll down under radius in the styles panel. You make this maybe 100 or so that it wraps well. Now that you've done that, just want to drag this inside here. Now this is not what we want. We want this content, this stuff to be on the top left, right? So first of all, change the direction from vertical to horizontal like this. Now I'm about to unlock a new type of positioning. I didn't think I was going to talk about this in this tutorial, but I'm going to talk about it because of this design. So now we want this here. Because of this is a stack, I'm unable to drag this here. It's just going to arrange exactly how I want it. I mean, there are alternative ways to make this work. I mean, I can change the pattern and the spacing and the alignment and all to make it fit, but I don't want to waste that much time. So one thing I can do is, while this is selected, that's this tag over here, we want to change something new. That's this position property here. So under here, you see type. Now this is relative. That's relative to the container. I don't want to go deep into this, but we want to change this from relative to absolute. So now we're breaking all the rules of stack. If I said that we can't place elements anywhere we want in the stack, but because of this, absolute property here, we can place elements anywhere we want in a stack. So as you can see, we've done something similar. Awesome. We've done something similar to what we have here. Now I can move this around, even though this is a stack. Remember, we can't move things around in a stack because the stack arranges your contents for you. But because of absolute positioning, you can move any elements you want inside of a stack. Right, so I've applied that. So now it works. If I resize this, okay, beautiful, it doesn't move. This is what I want. Now we need to work on the right panel. So similar layout, we have sort of like a header, a description, and then some details, and then these buttons. So one thing we can do is, it's quite simple. Drag a text like this. Header. Let's increase this to, go to the text property and increase this to maybe like 40 pixels. And then we want for description as well. So select and then call this description. Then once you reduce this to 18 pixels or 16 like this. Now let's go and copy the copy. Copy this, come here and paste. Go back, copy the description, then you paste. It looks like this because there's nothing wrapping the both of them. So we want to wrap these two inside the stack. So select the two of them and then add stack. By default it's aligned, center. So we'll make it aligned left, and then we'll make the height fit. Always remember to make the height fit. We can leave the width fixed for now because this is the main component for this particular layers. So if we drag this inside another component or another stack, then we have to make the width fill container. I don't know if I'm making sense. So you select the header width instead of fit, change it to fill so it's responsive, remember, and then select the description. Instead of fit, you make this fill container. Now it's looking good. So now we can add space between these two. So under the gap, change that to 40. Now 40 might be too much. Let's do 24. Beautiful. Now this text is too tight. It's just too close together, so we have to increase the line height. So while that is selected, come over here and underline, change this to maybe 1.5, 1.6 is good, and then change the line height of the header as well. Select it and come down here and change this to about 1.2. Okay, this looks good already. drag this over here. The next thing you have to do is this piece of information over here. I'm going to do this in a very easy way. Come back here, grab the text tool, click and then write project like this, project info, like that. And now the next thing you want to do is this. There's this here property here, and then there's the row over here as well. And you can see these are spaced out. And then there are like these lines demarcating them. So we'll just quickly do that. So while we have project info, select the text again. Normally the shortcut, the simplest thing to do would just be to hold down, option and drag like this to duplicate. But I'm just trying to make it easier so you can follow me and not wonder what I did. Also, there are these other shortcuts. So the way I pan, like the way I move my screen around, I'm holding down shift and just dragging, right? So these are like, I don't know, I don't want to go into much more information like that because I just thought about it now. What if you're wondering how I'm moving my screen and how I'm moving around here, how I'm able to zoom out and zoom in? Those are not what tutorial is all about right now, but you might just want to learn that on your own. So this tutorial is not 10 hours long. Right, so select the text, come here and write year. Reduce the size. No, we want this to be lowercase. Make this 14. Nice. So as you can see here, there's this year and then there's, the year on the far right. So one thing we want to do is select this. Now I'm going to just duplicate this instead of wasting time and grabbing the text tool. So while this is selected, I'll hold down the option key. I think it's Alt on Windows, and then click and drag, right? Click and drag like this. And now we have the year. Let's do 2023 over here. Beautiful. Now we want to select these two and wrap them inside the stack again. So the reason why it's like this is because right now the distribute is set to center. So there's a property called space between. So as it's like this, is just going to push the contents, distribute them evenly across the stack. But right now we have just two contents here. So if I use this space between distribute feature, as you can see, it's going to push the left contents to the far left and the right contents to the far right. Now we're getting somewhere. Now, since we have the same layout for this row over here, we don't want to redesign it from scratch. So we'll select the stack. We can either use Ctrl D or I'm going to just do what I like to do. Hold down option and then drag. So that's how you duplicate. And then the next thing we have is this links and these buttons over here, but we'll work on that later. So let's add those lines, right? There's a line after project info and a line after the year and another line below the stack. So we're going to just use lines instead of, borders. So select a frame. Now we just need a frame. Drag like this. This is going to serve as the line. We want to make this maybe like the height 1 pixels like this. Put this under where you want them to be, right? So select that. To duplicate the line, you can Ctrl D to duplicate it, but I like to just drag it so that I can place it where I want it to be. So I'll drag it like this and then drag again. Now we're getting there. These lines are sort of, faded, so I'm going to make that faded here as well. So select the line, hold down shift to select the three of them at the same time, and then reduce the opacity under the, fill property panel. You make this maybe like 20% opacity. Beautiful. Now we want to wrap all of these in a stack. So while this is selected, right click, add stack. Now it looks like a mess, but don't worry. We want to make the height fit. Always remember, make the height fit, and then we want this to be aligned to the left, because if you look at this project info is on the left, so would come here, and then under alignment, make it left. Beautiful. Now we're getting somewhere. Now everything inside of this particular stack should be set to fill container, so that when you reduce the size, everything is going to reduce accordingly. So you select this, make it fill container. Select this stack, wrapping the year and the value, make it fill container. Select the same thing, just make every single thing fill container, even the lines, make them fill container so that it's responsive when you resize them. Fill container. Now when I resize like this, so as I see what's happening, it's becoming responsive. So just get conversant with these things. Let's make this fill container as well, so that you start to master the tool. Now we want to make space. Turn this gap to maybe 24. I think 24 might be too much. Let's make this maybe 16. Okay, this is perfect. Now we'll align, we'll just place that right underneath this guy. Increase it so that we just want to make it look clean before we do the final wrapping. Now we have these two links. Good thing we made a component for the links, right? So one thing we can do is just to go to your assets. So it's under assets that you'd find all the components that you have made. So come down to project, select, and then see the button I made as component. You can just drag that inside here like this. And that's it. So that this one has this GitHub icon. Well, I don't want to go deep into components in this tutorial, so it doesn't get too long, right? But we can add an instance swap where you can duplicate this button and change the icon and all. But that's a different tutorial on its own. So let's just leave it like this. So as you can see, everything is looking good. One thing I forgot to do is to wrap these two. Okay, I did wrap them. Beautiful. Let's make this 20. I did wrap them. Now we want to wrap all of this right content inside its own stack. So we'll select all of them like this and right click, add stack. It looks like a mess. That's normal. Start from here, leave the width as is, because that's the main. You can't even change it to fill container if you wanted to. So just leave it as is. So on the height, make it fit. And come down here, distribute center. That is fine. You can leave that for now, but the normal thing to do is to make it start. Alignment, make it, far left. And then gap, we want the gap to be 32 or even more. Select it again. Let's make that like 40 so everything looks clean. And that is pretty much everything you need to do for that. Now remember what I said, container, you need to wrap the two inside their own container. So highlight them like this, right click, and sorry, before we do that, I just saw that we did not make all of this content fill container. So select this project info wrapper, this stuff that is wrapping all of this, and change the width to fill container. Let's not forget to do that. We can leave this component as is because it's very small. So just think about it. Even if you go to the lowest breakpoints, to the smallest phone in the world, this button is still going to show up without cropping out, right? So we want to leave it like that. Now you want to wrap all of this inside its own container, just like we did for the hero section. So you just select like this. Apologies, I've not been naming. I'm just trying to make the tutorial not to be too long, but don't forget to name your layouts, please. So while these are selected, right click, select again rather, right click and add stack. Nice. Now make everything inside of this stack fill container. So select this first one, instead of fixed, make it fill. And the reason for this, remember, the height of this stack is set to fixed. So make this fit. Now you want to make the right content fill container as well. Remember, you have made all of its parents, that's this right content, you have made all of its children, element, and stacks fill container. So just make the right content itself fill container. Select it, use your layers, because you might select the wrong thing and get confused. So as you can see, this is the stack. This one here is the left content, that's the image. That's why it's always good to name your layers, right? So, but me, I already know what I'm selecting. That's why I'm not, being too precise about naming my layers. Select the right content and then make that fill container. So now, if you resize, there's a problem. The problem right now is that this text here is not responsive, because if I'm resizing it, it's just, clipping. So there's a problem. Select the text. Okay, it's set to fill container. Set to fill container. So what's the problem? The stack wrapping the two text is set to fixed. So we want to change that from fixed to fill. Beautiful. Now when we resize again, as you can see, it works just well. Now let's go back to this. So if you look at this, this is done, sort of. It's done. Or at least it looks like what we have here. Let's change this. Let's make this rounded. Radius 20. Let's increase the space between the two to something like 40. So as you can see, the height of this is not that long. I'm trying to get, create the exact same thing we're seeing here so that you see the power of Framer. So one thing we can do to this is this image right now. Although this is already locked, so one thing we want to do is unlock it, reduce the size like this, because if you even notice here, this is not a square. This is more like a rectangle. So reduce it to fit the rectangle shape and then make it locked again. Remember, you can't change. If it was locked, you wouldn't be able to change a particular dimension, whether the height or the width. It would just be affecting all of them. But if you unlock it, you can work on the different ones. So now we have something that is almost similar to what we have here. Cool. So if we resize, increase, see that it is being responsive. Beautiful. Now remember, we have 3 projects here, so I don't want to go into details on how to make this from scratch. I'll just duplicate it. Select. Normally I would use a CMS for this, but this is not a tutorial for that. Again, if you want a tutorial for CMS, please comment CMS in the comment section. So I'll select this stack, just duplicate it. Duplicate. I'm holding down Option and I'm dragging. Nice. So we have this. We have the 3 of them now set up correctly. So now we want to wrap these 3 inside its own stack, because that's just the normal thing to do, right? I mean, you can decide not to do it, but the normal thing to do would just to be to wrap the 3 projects inside the stack on its own and then just name it project, just to keep things organized. Again, make the height fit, because right now if it's fixed and you duplicate to add a new project, it's clipping. So if you select the whole thing, the project, make it fit content. Beautiful. Now, so if you just delete, it's going to wrap itself well. And let's increase the space between the projects, right? So the gap should be something like let's do 60 pixels. Awesome. Now remember, we have this header over here, featured project and description. So one fast way now to go about this would not be to design this from scratch. Just the same way we built this header and description, the same way we did this one here is literally the same pattern, right? So I'll just make that faster for me. Hold down Alt or Option and then click and drag. And you can see what I'm going to, right? So we'll just copy this out, paste, then copy this out, paste. Beautiful. Now see that we have something similar. Let's change this font to Bebas. Select it, come back to the right panel rather, and change this to Bebas like this. Let's increase the size from 40 to maybe 60. Nice. Now again, wrap everything inside the container. You always want to keep things organized and clean. I'll tell you why when I'm finally done. So wrap all of these, select all of them, put the header and the project itself. Right click and add into a stack. You want to call the stack container. Container. You want to make the height fit, don't forget. And then you want to align to the left, and you want to increase the space, the gap, to maybe 60. Nice. So now we have to now create this section, just the way we did for the hero section. Create the section that we house this container. That's the project section, of course. So I'm going to click on this, draw a big frame like this. You can call the frame project section. Nice. Now let's remove the color from here and then just drag this inside here. Now it's already inside this frame. This frame is just a frame, it's not a stack. So we want to make it a stack. Stack is very important. You'd select it and then make it a layout. Height, remember, fit. Now the same amount of padding you added to here. So here 100 top, 40 right, 100 bottom, 40 left. So you'd come and select this. Come down to padding. Click this and then 100, 40, 100, 40. Beautiful. So let's reduce the size of this and beautiful. So select this and then the container that is inside, of course. Let's make sure everything is going to be responsive. This stack, we need to make it fill container like that. And then for the project, it has to be fill container. Always make sure you remember to make them fill container. And now for the container itself, holding everything, we make it fill container. So make sure everything is fill container. So as you can see, this is not fill container. So you'd make this fill container. Any stack inside here should be fill container. Any stack, literally. So you can come to the layers panel and make all the stacks fill container. Make the stack here fill container. So this is just going to make your site responsive. Now if you resize like this, as you can see, everything is being responsive. It's being responsive. So now drag this. Let's give this a dark color, black. So we'll just drag this inside here like this. Beautiful. Now, the reason why you're seeing this is because the height of the main container is set to fixed. Yeah, so you have to select the main container and make the height fit. Nice. And now there's this weird gap in the main container that we don't want. So select it and make it 0. And now select the project section, and instead of width fixed, we want to make it fill the container. See that we're getting somewhere now. Nice. So now if you come back to tablet, do we like it like this? No, I don't think this looks good. So we want to change the direction from horizontal to vertical. So select the 3 of them, hold down shift and change to vertical like this. Do the same thing for mobile. Select. Make sure you're selecting through the layers panel, just so you're precise on what you're selecting, and then change the direction. Again, we want to add a smaller padding to this place. So select the project section on its own, and then the left and right padding, make that 20, 20, just like that. Now let me quickly add images here so that it looks good. So you can see that the images I've added here apply to all the other breakpoints. So it's really that easy. Now the next thing we want to work on, let's not waste time, it's the about me section. It's a side-by-side section. So it's literally the same thing like this. It's just that there's a difference, this one is a text instead of an image. So it's practically the same thing. So I'm just going to quickly show you how to do that. Again, you come outside. Let's copy this. Copy, come outside and paste, right? Now we have this side by side over here. So this layout sort of looks like this layout here. We just don't need this project info part. So right now we want to ungroup this. Select this tag, remove it. We don't need that. Delete this. Beautiful. Now we'll come here, select this tag that is wrapping the text, and then Ctrl C to copy it. Come outside here and then paste it like this. So as you can see, we're getting somewhere. Or better still, let's just copy the whole thing. Let's delete this. Copy the whole part like this, and then paste it outside here like this. And then just delete this one, this tag, the one that is wrapping the project info. Delete it like this. Simple. As you can see, we have immediately gotten a similar layout immediately. So we can just change the copy quickly. Now that you've copied that, select everything, add inside a stack. And now we want this to be aligned top, because as you can see, this is currently aligned, center. So I'll make it aligned top like this, just the way we have it here. Select this one, make it fill container. Don't forget. Then you make this write content as well, fill container. Beautiful. Now we have something similar. Let's increase the size of this text. Let's increase it more, and then just add a little space, maybe 40 pixels, just like that. So we have made this container. Let's call this container. Awesome. Again, now we want to create this section that is going to have the padding that's for this container. So it's going to be the about me section. Select like this, and then just draw this section like so. We want to make this a stack, so click on layout and make it a stack, and I will just draw this inside of the stack. Obviously we can't see what's going on because of everything is white, so we'll select the main section stack and remove that color there. We don't need it. Now the container, remember, always set it to fill container when you put it inside another stack. So make it fill like that. And now make the height fit. Don't forget to do that. Fit. Now select the stack. Let's call this about section. Like that. Now select it and scroll down and change the pattern. Remember 100 on the top, 100 on the bottom, 40 on the left, 40 on the right. So select the other one and then 100, 40, 100, 40, just like that. And now you have the about section. So you drag that inside. So one thing you can do is close all of this like this. Select the about section. You want to reduce it so that it enters, because right now, before it was over 1200 pixels, which is this breakpoint here, but you want to reduce it to something less than that so that you can just drag it easily inside this place. So as you can see, I've dragged it. Always be sure to drag it inside the correct container. So we want to drag it inside this main container, not just the desktop. So this main container is inside the desktop. We want to drag the section inside the main container. So we've dragged it, and this is it. Let's select it, make it black like your other section, and select this like this and just make the width fill. Beautiful. What I want to talk about is, instead of making all this section have colors, you can just make the main container black and then remove the colors for every other thing, right? So you can just make the work easier for yourself, but we can just ignore that for now. So let's come back here. Let's make this text a little. So there's something I've noticed here. When you do fill container for two different elements, so what happens is it's taking up the same size. So if you look at this now, while this is selected, you can see that the width is few. So it's taking up the same space as the right content. Sometimes you want the right content to take up more space, even though it's set to few, more space than the left content, right? So now in this case, as you can see, the right content is taking up more space than the left content. It's not directly, equal. So one thing we want to do is select the right content like this, and then under fill, you can just make this 2. So this is going to be hard to explain, but just know that you can make the sizes different. Same for there, same for here. So right now it's currently set to 1. You can make it 2, but let's leave it as 1 because as you can see here, the size on the left and the size on the right is proportionate, it's equal. Over here it's not. So I've made this one 2 pixels, 2 fill by 2, right? So select this and make the text maybe 32. Now this height, I don't know, for some reason the height is set to fixed. We don't want that. Select and make to fit, so that when you duplicate and duplicate, everything just keeps growing. So as you can see, everything is growing. So the last thing is the form. Unfortunately, I would love to talk about the form, but the video is getting too long and I think I have storage issues. So I'll talk about that in another tutorial. Again, if you want that, you can let me know in the comment section so I can know whether it's something that I'll prioritize in my list of content. So yeah, when you're done building the site and you're satisfied with what you have done, the next step is just to click this nice blue button. Just click on it. And that's it. You've published your site to the internet. You can preview it by clicking this because this is the domain that Firma has given you. So select. So as you can see, a very responsive, beautiful site built all in Firma. One more thing I want to talk about is adding a custom domain, right? So you can just click on this, or alternatively click on this, settings icon over here. This is where you can change up the name of the site. You can call it your name. You can write a description for the site, things like that. You can also add a favicon, your logo and all that shows up in the tabs. You can also add the social preview, the one that shows up like a thumbnail when you share your website link to people via DMs or social media. Yeah, you can also add when someone saves your site to their device, the icon that's going to show in their as the app icon, right? Yeah, so that's where you change some of the information of this stuff, and then you click on save to commit that. And now for domains, this is the current domain that you have, the base domain, but Firma has given you the opportunity to have a more custom domain. Only catch is you have to use their .firma.domain. It could be .firma.websites, .photos, .media, .wiki, .ai, anything you want. Just type in something personal here. It could be your name or literally anything at all, and check if it's taken, right? Let me quickly use let's do something unique, YouTube, right? And then click on this. As you can see, this is my current domain right now. It is optimized, right? So if I want a custom domain like the one maybe .com or something personal, you can just go ahead to remove this and then add the custom domain. I'll leave this for now. And then when you're done doing all of this, you just have to hit this publish again to make sure everything is pushed live. And then when you do that and you click on this, so as you can see, this is your domain right now, youtube.firma.com. It could be what you want, and then this is the site built in Firma. So yeah, this is just part 1 of a complete site build in Firma. In this video, we focus mainly on the body of the site, the core sections, that's the hero, the project, and the about section. Part 2 is coming soon, where we'll design the navigation, that's the header and the footer. Then in part 3, we'll cover some clean effects and animations to bring the site to life. And in part 4, we'll add the final polish and refinements to make everything look good. If you're following the series, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next video. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.